What if the world's most influential innovator suddenly found himself powerless amid total chaos? The city of Los Angeles, a sprawling urban jungle pulsing with life and technology, suddenly fell into darkness. The sky above the skyline was swallowed by an unexpected blackout that swept through every street, every neighborhood, every home. In the middle of the chaos stood Elon Musk, his jaw tight, eyes blazing with urgency as the scene unfolded around him. "Get it out," he shouted, his voice cutting through the panic and confusion like a whip. The phrase echoed through the cramped control room where his closest team scrambled to restore order, but also rippled out into the streets where people wrestled with fear, uncertainty, and frustration. What caused this blackout? Was it a technical failure, a cyber attack, or something more sinister? These questions buzzed relentlessly in Elon's mind, but there was no time to dwell on them. Every second counted. Los Angeles, the city of dreams, was teetering on the edge of chaos, and the stakes were higher than ever before. As the city's power grid failed, alarms blared and emergency services struggled to maintain control, looting and violence began to flare in pockets across the city. The people were frightened, desperate, and looking for someone to lead them out of the darkness. Elon had always been that figure, a man who seemed to bend technology and the future to his will, but now even he felt the weight of helplessness pressing down on him. His phone buzzed incessantly, flashing messages from engineers, city officials, and the media demanding answers. Sweat trickled down his temple as he gripped the edge of the console. "Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from," he muttered under his breath, imagining how this moment might be captured by millions, how this story might just spark a new beginning not only for him but for everyone watching. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? He wondered silently, searching his own heart for the answer. The blackout had hit without warning. Moments ago, his team was running a test on the new Tesla energy grid integration when the entire system blinked off. The city plunged into darkness, as if the sun had been snatched from the sky. Traffic lights failed, cutting off the flow of thousands of cars. Hospitals switched to emergency generators, but their supplies were limited. Cell towers began to falter, and communication networks were strained to breaking. The sprawling city was vulnerable, exposed, and the people's sense of security shattered in an instant. Elon's mind raced through every contingency plan he'd ever developed. SpaceX satellites. Tesla batteries. Neuralink. Could these innovations somehow be marshaled to pull the city out of its black hole? His gaze flicked to the live feeds coming in from different parts of Los Angeles. The Hollywood Hills were dark, downtown was a patchwork of flickering candles and flashlights, and in the outskirts, sirens screamed while crowds surged in panic. The contrast was jarring, the city known for innovation and glamour reduced to shadows and chaos. He remembered the early days of his career, the nights spent coding in a cramped dorm room, dreaming of changing the world but also feeling the sting of repeated failure. Every rejection letter, every business setback had pushed him harder, and now that grit was more necessary than ever. "We can fix this," he vowed. "We have to." His team gathered around the holographic map of the city, points of failure flashing in alarming red. His lead engineer, a sharp-witted woman named Jessica, pointed to the central grid hub. "It's completely offline. Our satellites are still operational, but the connection is unstable. If we can reroute power from Tesla's battery farms, we might stabilize some neighborhoods, but it won't be enough for the whole city." Elon's frustration bubbled up. "Get it out," he barked again, this time demanding not only power but solutions, information, options, answers from every corner of his operation. The team scrambled, but Elon's mind was already moving ahead. Could they mobilize the Falcon rockets to deliver emergency generators? Could they hack into the city's communication network through Starlink satellites? Every innovation he'd ever championed suddenly had to prove itself in the fire. Outside, the streets were alive with uncertainty. People took to the roads, some trying to flee, others searching for loved ones. The news channels broadcast warnings, but with power down, access was spotty. Rumors spread like wildfire, and with them, fear. Elon's heart ached for the people caught in the storm, many of whom he barely knew but who depended on him in this moment. The weight of responsibility was crushing. Hours felt like minutes as the night deepened. Elon worked alongside his team, tapping into every network, testing every system, searching for the key to unlock the city's revival. But as the city slept, or rather, lay awake in darkness, the real question gnawed at him: could technology alone save a city gripped by chaos? Or was the answer somewhere deeper, in the resilience of the human spirit? Outside the control room, in a small cafe, a young woman named Mia clutched her phone, battery dying, desperately trying to reach her family. She thought about her father, stranded in downtown, and the uncertainty made her chest tighten. She was just one of thousands, maybe millions, whose lives were suddenly on pause. Little did she know that the man commanding the struggle to restore light was wrestling with doubts and fears of his own. Get it out. Elon repeated quietly to himself, a mantra that pushed him beyond exhaustion. The city needed a miracle, but miracles were born of relentless effort and hope. As the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, there was still no clear sign that power would return soon. The question lingered: how long could the city survive in darkness? And how long could Elon survive the weight of expectations? The story was just beginning, and the chaos in Los Angeles was far from over. But one thing was certain: this night would change everything. For Elon, for the city, and for the world watching with bated breath. What happens when a man who built his empire on control faces the uncontrollable? This is the story of struggle, leadership, and a demand that echoed through the chaos. Get it out. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk wasn't always the world-famous entrepreneur commanding rockets and electric cars. Behind the headlines and innovation was a boy shaped by struggle and determination. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, Elon's childhood was a mix of fascination with technology and the challenges of growing up in a complicated family. His parents divorced when he was young, and while his mother May was a strong and nurturing figure, his relationship with his father was complicated, marked by both respect and distance. From an early age, Elon showed an insatiable curiosity, devouring books on physics, engineering, and science fiction. He built homemade rockets in the backyard and taught himself computer programming by age 10. Yet, despite this brilliance, his youth was also colored by moments of bullying at school and feelings of isolation. It was this tension, between a towering intellect and the loneliness it sometimes bred, that forged his relentless drive. Elon's teenage years were spent navigating a difficult path, often retreating into his mind to dream bigger than the small city around him. He once recalled spending days holed up in a room with a single computer, writing code and creating his first software game called Blaster. His early success came with Zip2, a company he co-founded with his brother Kimball, which provided business directories and maps for newspapers. But even then, success was bittersweet. Investors doubted the young South African, and competition was fierce. Elon poured everything into the company, sleeping in the office, working tirelessly to meet deadlines. When Compaq bought Zip2 for nearly $300 million, it was a moment of triumph, but also a new beginning. The sale gave Elon a taste of victory but didn't quell his hunger for something bigger. The money was a tool, not a destination. He invested in X.com, an online payments company that later became PayPal. Again, conflict shadowed progress. Boardroom disputes, clashes with partners, and public scrutiny tested Elon's resolve. His drive sometimes alienated colleagues, and his perfectionism was both a strength and a source of tension. But the success of PayPal's sale to eBay marked him as a tech visionary. His relationships during these years were complex. Elon married Justine Wilson, an author he met at university, and they had 6 children, though tragedy struck when their first son died of SIDS. Their marriage eventually ended, but the emotional scars stayed with him. Love, loss, and the sacrifices demanded by ambition were constant themes in his life. As Elon moved to SpaceX and Tesla, the stakes soared higher. Launching rockets, revolutionizing electric cars, and pushing humanity toward Mars seemed like the work of a man with an unyielding vision. But behind the scenes, he faced public criticism, personal breakdowns, and the loneliness that comes with being at the top. Friends recall Elon as someone who could switch from brilliant charm to fiery intensity in seconds. His expectations were sky-high, not just for others but for himself. This internal pressure created moments of self-doubt that few saw. His social media outbursts, the relentless work hours, the clashes with the media, each told a story of a man wrestling with enormous weight. It was this same Elon who now found himself in the heart of Los Angeles blackout chaos, his past battles echoing in his mind as he faced a crisis unlike any before. But more than just the past, it was the people around him who shaped this moment. Jessica, the lead engineer, wasn't just an employee but someone who had earned Elon's rare trust. Her calm under pressure reminded him of his younger self, and her loyalty meant everything when betrayal lurked close. Elon's relationship with his siblings, especially Kimball, remained a grounding force, a reminder of family despite the whirlwind of fame and fortune. Even his complex relationship with the media played into his mindset now. He knew the cameras were watching, that every decision and every word could be twisted into a headline. Yet, he also believed in the power of transparency and connection. This was why, even amid crisis, he muttered the plea to hit subscribe and connect with the people watching, reminding himself that leadership meant more than control, it meant inspiring hope. The emotional undercurrents of his life, the loneliness, the drive, the need for validation, formed the foundation for his actions now. They weren't just business decisions, they were personal battles, memories fueling his fight. He remembered the nights when his companies teetered on bankruptcy, the sleepless hours spent drafting plans that many said were impossible. Those hard-won lessons from failure became his armor. But in this blackout, the stakes were more human. Lives were at risk, families torn apart by fear, a city facing darkness beyond just the physical. Elon's mind flashed to his own family, his children, his mother May's warm encouragement, his siblings' support. These relationships were the lifelines anchoring him in the storm. It was the need to protect and rebuild that gave him renewed strength. He had always believed technology could solve problems, but now he understood that it was people, connection, trust, sacrifice, that mattered most. This internal revelation drove him to act not just as a CEO but as a leader for a city desperate for light, both literal and metaphorical. The night stretched on, but Elon's memories and emotions remained vivid, pushing him forward. The tension between past and present, success and struggle, hope and despair, created a complex portrait of a man more human than legend. The backstory was not just context, it was the fuel powering every decision he made as the blackout unfolded. As the city waited and the darkness deepened, Elon's story intertwined with the lives of millions. His past gave him the tools, but the present demanded something more: courage, resilience, and the willingness to face chaos head-on. In this moment, the visionary was also a son, a brother, a father, a man haunted by his failures and driven by his dreams. And as dawn approached, he knew that whatever came next, the story of this blackout would be a test unlike any before. The question wasn't just if technology could restore power, but if humanity could reclaim hope. The struggle to bring light back to Los Angeles was as much about the connections between people as the circuits in the grid. Elon's past had shaped him, but his future, like the city's, was still unwritten. The stage was set for the rising conflict to challenge everything he believed in and force him to confront the darkest parts of his journey. As the first rays of morning touched the horizon, the story was only beginning, and Elon Musk stood at the crossroads of innovation and chaos, ready to face whatever came next. Elon Musk's rise to becoming one of the most famous and controversial innovators in the world was anything but smooth. After his initial successes with Zip2 and PayPal, Elon's ambitions took him to heights that many said were impossible. Moving to the United States was the first big leap toward his dreams, a land where he believed technology and vision could reshape humanity's future. But the path was riddled with personal and professional storms that tested every ounce of his resolve. When he founded SpaceX in 2002, the world watched skeptically. Rockets were the domain of governments and defense contractors, and here was a private entrepreneur trying to challenge decades of aerospace monopoly. Elon poured nearly all his fortune into the project, risking everything on a vision of reusable rockets and Mars colonization. The early launches were failures, each crash or malfunction a public setback that drew harsh criticism and threatened to bankrupt the company. Yet Elon's obsession with success kept him moving forward. Tesla came next, electric cars that promised to disrupt the fossil fuel economy and revolutionize transportation. The idea was bold, and the stakes were astronomical. There were moments when Tesla came within hours of collapse, when investors pulled out, when production deadlines were missed, and the media predicted doom. But Elon's tireless work ethic, pushing 100-hour weeks and demanding excellence from his teams, kept the dream alive. Throughout this meteoric rise, Elon's personal life was a series of upheavals. His marriage to Justine Wilson ended in divorce amid intense public scrutiny. The demands of his companies meant he was often absent, while rumors and scandals followed his erratic behavior and blunt social media presence. Friendships strained under the weight of his ambition and intensity, and many questioned whether the sacrifices were worth it. Elon's relationship with the media was notoriously difficult. His tweets sometimes stirred controversy, his public statements could be brash, and his personality seemed to oscillate between visionary genius and unpredictable disruptor. Yet beneath the surface was a man driven by a profound desire to change the world, no matter the cost. These contradictions fueled both his rise and his conflicts. Behind closed doors, Elon grappled with loneliness and pressure few could imagine. The weight of expectations, from investors, employees, the public, and himself, was immense. Every decision carried the risk of failure, and the spotlight never dimmed. His emotional life was turbulent, with moments of doubt, frustration, and even despair. Yet his relentless optimism about the future never fully faded. This inner conflict, the tension between vulnerability and vision, shaped the man who now stood in the heart of Los Angeles during the blackout crisis. He was a leader who had known incredible highs and devastating lows. When the power went out across the city, those years of struggle and triumph flashed in his mind. He remembered the nights when he'd almost given up on SpaceX, when Tesla was on the brink of bankruptcy, and the personal sacrifices he'd made along the way. These memories were not just ghosts of the past but fuel for the fight ahead. Elon's management style had evolved through these experiences. He was known for demanding perfection, often pushing his teams to the brink, but he also inspired loyalty through his vision and willingness to take risks. He surrounded himself with experts but often remained deeply involved in technical details, a rarity among CEOs. This combination of intensity and intelligence made him a complex figure, both admired and feared. During the blackout, this dynamic played out in real time. His team looked to him for direction amid the chaos, expecting a calm authority that could cut through the confusion. But Elon's own emotions churned beneath the surface. Frustration at the scale of the crisis, impatience with delays, and a fierce determination to fix what was broken. The pressure mounted as the hours passed with no clear solution. Elon's public persona, so often shaped by media narratives, was stripped down to raw leadership. In conversations with Jessica, his lead engineer, and others, he was blunt, sometimes harsh, but always focused on the goal. Yet behind this tough exterior was the human reality of a man wrestling with the weight of responsibility. The personal relationships that had once provided support and grounding were tested in this moment. His siblings offered quiet encouragement but worried about the toll the crisis was taking. His mother, May, sent messages of love and strength, reminding him to take care of himself. These connections were a lifeline amid the storm. Even as Elon pushed his team harder, he was aware of the fragility of human endurance. He saw the fatigue in their eyes, the late-night coffee cups, the stress lines deepening on faces. This awareness added a layer of complexity to his leadership, balancing drive with empathy. The blackout also exposed tensions between Elon and other powerful players. Local government officials demanded quick fixes and public reassurances, but their understanding of technology and urgency often lagged behind the reality on the ground. Elon found himself clashing with politicians and bureaucrats, frustrated by red tape and political gamesmanship. His desire to solve the problem sometimes collided with the slow grind of governance. The media scrutiny intensified, amplifying every misstep and fueling rumors. Elon's social media channels became battlegrounds where information, misinformation, and emotion swirled. He was both a hero and a target, praised by some for his bold action and criticized by others for perceived arrogance or recklessness. Navigating this landscape required as much skill as managing the technical crisis itself. Through it all, Elon's vision remained steadfast. He believed that technology could overcome even this unprecedented blackout, that the tools he had spent decades developing were the key to restoring light to the city. But this belief was tempered by the hard-earned wisdom that no vision could succeed without human connection. The blackout was a crucible that tested not just Elon's companies but his character. The moments of doubt, conflict, and pain revealed vulnerabilities that few had seen before. Yet they also illuminated strengths, resilience, leadership, and the capacity to inspire hope amid despair. As the city of Los Angeles grappled with darkness, Elon's personal journey mirrored the city's struggle. From the broken, uncertain moments came a fierce determination to rise. His story was no longer just about rockets and cars but about the power of perseverance and the courage to face chaos head-on. This chapter of his life, like the ones before, was a testament to the complicated, messy, and ultimately human nature of greatness. The challenges he faced now were unlike any before, demanding more than just technological solutions. They required empathy, trust, and a willingness to confront failure openly. Elon's journey was far from over. The blackout was a catalyst that would push him to new limits and force him to confront questions about leadership, sacrifice, and the meaning of success. As the hours stretched on, the rising conflict of the crisis began to unfold, a story of tension, betrayal, hope, and struggle that would test every part of Elon Musk's remarkable life. The blackout had thrown Los Angeles into a chaotic spiral, but for Elon Musk, it marked the beginning of a new and unexpected journey. What started as a technological failure was rapidly evolving into a crisis that tested every facet of his leadership and resilience. As the city sank deeper into darkness, Elon realized that his role was no longer confined to that of an innovator or CEO. He was now a central figure in a high-stakes drama unfolding on a scale he had never faced before. The unexpected turn came when reports surfaced of a cyber attack, something far more complex and sinister than a mere grid failure. Hackers had targeted critical infrastructure, exploiting vulnerabilities in the outdated city systems. Suddenly, the problem was no longer just about rerouting power or deploying backup generators, it was about defending the city against an invisible enemy while racing to restore stability. Elon's mind sharpened. The technologies he developed, SpaceX's satellites, Tesla's battery farms, Starlink's global network, were tools not just for progress but for survival. He mobilized his teams to launch an all-out counteroffensive. The control room buzzed with frantic energy as engineers hacked into the city's compromised networks, isolating the threats and working to patch the breaches. Elon paced the room, his face a mask of concentration. The tension was palpable, but within it lay a fragile hope. He ordered a team to deploy Tesla's fleet of mobile battery units to critical points, hospitals, emergency centers, and police stations, to provide temporary power. Simultaneously, SpaceX satellites were tasked with creating a secure communication network to bypass the damaged terrestrial systems. The vivid descriptions of this chaotic scene paint a picture of a city caught between collapse and survival. Downtown streets, once glowing with neon lights and traffic, were now eerily silent except for the distant wail of sirens and the occasional shout of those navigating the shadows. The air was thick with anxiety and uncertainty. Elon's efforts felt like a race against time and an unseen enemy. Meanwhile, on the ground, the city's residents faced their own battles. Some banded together in neighborhoods to protect each other from looters, forming makeshift watch groups armed with whatever they could find. Others scrambled to find food, water, and shelter in the growing darkness. The vividness of these scenes adds emotional weight, showing not just the scale of the crisis but the raw humanity within it. Back in the control room, Elon's phone rang constantly. Messages from his inner circle, city officials, and even federal agencies poured in, each demanding updates or assistance. The complexity of the situation was overwhelming, but Elon thrived in the pressure cooker. He was determined to turn this crisis into a demonstration of the power of innovation and human will. Yet the challenges kept mounting. Just as a glimmer of progress appeared, Tesla batteries powering a critical hospital wing. The hackers struck again, targeting the emergency network created by SpaceX satellites. Communications faltered, and panic threatened to spread anew. Elon's frustration boiled over. "Get it out," he shouted, a command that was as much about urgency as it was a plea for clarity and results. His team worked through the night, improvising and adapting. Elon's leadership style, demanding, relentless, but inspiring, pushed the team beyond exhaustion. Every victory was met with new setbacks, every hopeful sign shadowed by fresh challenges. The journey was grueling. Alongside the technological battle, Elon faced political and social pressure. City leaders demanded rapid fixes and public reassurance. Media outlets ran headlines questioning his capability and the reliability of his companies. Protesters gathered outside Tesla and SpaceX offices, blaming corporate interests for the chaos. Elon had to navigate a delicate balance between transparency and strategic discretion. In the midst of this, he also confronted moments of self-doubt and vulnerability. The memory of past failures haunted him, the crashed rockets, missed deadlines, broken promises. But there was also the memory of resilience and comeback. The vividness of Elon's emotional state adds depth to the narrative, his clenched jaw, the furrowed brows, the sleepless nights fueled by determination and coffee. The story shifts from a simple blackout to an epic saga of survival, innovation, and human spirit. Elon's journey through this climactic challenge becomes a metaphor for the city itself, a place battered but unbroken, struggling to find light in overwhelming darkness. As dawn approached after a long night of relentless effort, there was a breakthrough. The combined efforts of SpaceX and Tesla teams managed to isolate the cyber attack vectors, restoring critical segments of the grid and communications. Power flickered back to essential areas, and emergency responders regained coordination. The relief was palpable but cautious. This was only the beginning of recovery. Elon stood by the control console, exhaustion evident but overshadowed by a fierce spark of hope. The climactic journey through chaos and uncertainty revealed not just technological prowess but a profound lesson about resilience and adaptability. The city, like Elon, was forced to confront its vulnerabilities and rethink its future. The vivid descriptions of the aftermath, streets slowly lighting up, people emerging cautiously from shelters, the tentative return of order, paint a powerful image of hope in the wake of turmoil. This chapter marks a turning point, where the story moves beyond crisis management to deeper questions about leadership, trust, and the cost of innovation. Elon's journey continues to unfold, revealing layers of complexity and human emotion beneath the headline-making events. The city of Los Angeles and its people are characters in their own right, shaped by the darkness but striving toward light. As the crisis begins to stabilize, Elon reflects on the lessons learned and the road ahead. This moment is not just about restoring power but about rekindling faith in a shared future. The unexpected journey sparked by the blackout becomes a defining chapter in Elon Musk's story, a testament to the power of vision, grit, and the relentless pursuit of solutions in the face of overwhelming odds. The city may still be fragile, but the spark of hope has been lit, one that promises to burn brighter as the story moves forward. The emotional climax of the blackout crisis hit Elon Musk harder than anyone expected. After nights of unrelenting pressure, technological battles, and tense negotiations, the truth behind the chaos finally revealed itself in a shocking way, one that shook not only the city of Los Angeles but Elon's very understanding of his mission and leadership. Just as Elon's teams began stabilizing the grid and communications, an insider leak exposed a major betrayal within the city's power infrastructure. A high-ranking official in the utility company had deliberately sabotaged critical systems, motivated by greed and a desire to profit from the ensuing crisis. The revelation was a gut punch to Elon. It wasn't just a technological failure or an external cyber attack anymore. The enemy was closer, hidden within the very systems meant to protect and serve the public. This truth sent ripples of anger, disbelief, and fear through the control room. Elon felt a surge of frustration mixed with a strange sense of vindication. The obstacles he had faced were no longer abstract challenges but real acts of human betrayal. Yet amidst the outrage, there was also a flicker of hope. This betrayal explained the inexplicable setbacks and sudden reversals that had stalled progress. With the saboteur identified, Elon could now target the root of the problem directly. The emotional intensity in the room was palpable. Engineers who had been exhausted and disheartened found renewed focus, channeling their anger into action. Elon's voice, usually commanding and intense, softened as he addressed his team. "We've been fighting shadows. Now we know the truth. Let's finish this." The vivid details of the control room, faces marked by sleepless nights, clenched jaws, eyes burning with determination, captured the raw humanity behind the crisis. Meanwhile, the public's reaction was electric. News of the insider sabotage exploded across social media, fueling outrage and calls for accountability. Protests intensified, and city leaders scrambled to respond. Elon found himself at the center of a storm not just of technology but of politics and ethics. He grappled with the responsibility of leading the recovery while confronting corruption. His emotional journey deepened as he faced moments of doubt about the nature of power, both electrical and political. The betrayal underscored the fragility of the systems humanity relies on and highlighted the importance of transparency and vigilance. For Elon, it was a harsh lesson in trust and the costs of unchecked ambition. Yet, the story did not end in despair. The crisis sparked a collective awakening. Citizens, activists, and officials began demanding reforms and greater oversight. Elon used his platform to advocate for change, pushing for modernized infrastructure and ethical governance. The emotional arc of the chapter followed the climax-hope-climax pattern, the discovery of betrayal, climax, the mobilization of action and hope, and then the intensified challenges of political backlash and resistance to change, climax. Throughout this, Elon's personal growth shone through. The crisis forced him to confront his own vulnerabilities, the fear of failure, the burden of leadership, and the need for empathy. He reached out to those affected by the blackout, visiting neighborhoods hardest hit, listening to stories of hardship and resilience. These moments humanized the struggle and reminded Elon why his work mattered beyond technology and profit. The vivid descriptions of these encounters, faces illuminated by candlelight, conversations heavy with emotion, tears mixed with determination, added depth to the narrative. The city's resilience became a mirror for Elon's own inner strength. In the midst of chaos, connections were forged. Jessica, the lead engineer, emerged not just as a colleague but as a trusted confidant. Their shared hardships and victories created a bond that tempered Elon's isolation. This relationship provided a rare glimpse into his softer side, balancing the public image of relentless intensity. As the blackout slowly lifted, the emotional climax gave way to reflection. Elon recognized that technology alone could not solve humanity's problems. The real challenge was building systems, technical and social, that were resilient, transparent, and inclusive. He began to envision a future where innovation served the common good, where leadership was accountable, and where the lessons of this crisis would shape a better tomorrow. The vivid contrast between the dark, chaotic nights of the blackout and the first flickers of restored light symbolized this transition. The emotional stakes were high, but so was the hope. The chapter closed with Elon's resolve renewed, tempered by humility and a deeper understanding of the complex forces shaping the future. The emotional climax was not just about crisis and betrayal, but about growth and transformation. Elon Musk stood at a crossroads, ready to lead not only with technology but with heart. The blackout crisis was finally winding down, and Los Angeles began the slow, tentative process of recovery. But for Elon Musk, the end of chaos was not the end of the story, it was a new beginning, a moment for reflection and profound understanding. The resolution was more than technical fixes or restored power, it was about the lessons learned, the human cost, and the meaning behind the storm. In the quiet that followed, Elon found himself thinking deeply about love, family, sacrifice, and the complex tapestry of life that had brought him to this point. The city that had suffered together now symbolized the fragile connections that bind humanity, and Elon's own journey mirrored this collective awakening. He remembered the early days of his life, growing up in South Africa, the dreams that propelled him, the relationships that shaped him. His mother, May, had been a constant source of love and support, teaching him the value of resilience and compassion. Though the pressures of his work had often pulled him away from personal connections, the blackout had reminded him of their irreplaceable importance. Elon began to reach out more intentionally, to family, to close friends, to colleagues who had stood by him through thick and thin. These bonds, once overshadowed by ambition, now took center stage. The emotional texture of this chapter was rich with warmth and vulnerability, contrasting sharply with the previous tension and conflict. He realized that true strength was not only in innovation but in connection, love that holds even when everything else seems to fall apart. As the city's lights came back on, so did a sense of hope and possibility. Elon's companies shifted focus toward not just technological solutions but community-driven projects. Tesla's battery storage was expanded to underserved neighborhoods, and SpaceX's Starlink satellites aimed to provide internet access to remote and vulnerable areas. The resolution was about building a future that was inclusive and compassionate. Throughout this period, Elon reflected on the sacrifices made, not just by himself but by everyone involved. The engineers who worked endless hours, the emergency responders who risked their lives, the families who endured fear and uncertainty. Their stories became a source of inspiration and humility. Elon publicly acknowledged their courage and dedication, using his platform to amplify their voices. The narrative's tone softened, emphasizing gratitude and shared humanity. The resolution also brought philosophical insights. Elon grappled with questions about the nature of success and the cost of progress. Was the relentless pursuit of innovation worth it if it meant neglecting the human element? How could technology serve without overshadowing empathy? These reflections added a profound dimension to his character, revealing growth beyond business acumen. The vivid imagery of quiet neighborhoods lit by candlelight, families coming together, and communities rebuilding added a hopeful, intimate atmosphere. Elon visited affected areas, not as a CEO but as a fellow human being, listening and learning. These moments humanized the story and deepened the connection between character and audience. The resolution did not shy away from the complexity of emotions. There was sadness for losses, frustration over failures, but also a powerful sense of hope and renewal. Elon's own transformation was central, from a driven, often isolated figure to one who embraced vulnerability and connection as strengths. The final lessons of the blackout crisis were clear and resonant. Life is unpredictable and full of challenges, but love and community can guide the way through darkness. Elon's closing words captured this message: we faced the worst, and we stood together. That's what lights the way forward. The story ended not with grand technological triumphs but with the quiet, profound realization that progress is meaningful only when it lifts everyone. This chapter brought closure while opening doors to new possibilities, leaving the reader with a lasting impression of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of love. Elon Musk's journey through the LA blackout was more than a tale of technology, it was a human story about courage, sacrifice, and the strength found in connection. As Los Angeles began its recovery, new challenges surfaced that tested Elon Musk's leadership in ways he hadn't anticipated. The blackout had exposed glaring weaknesses not only in the city's infrastructure but also in the relationship between technology and society. Elon faced the daunting task of navigating public skepticism, regulatory hurdles, and the delicate balance between innovation and accountability. The rising conflict unfolded quickly. While many lauded Elon's swift response and technological solutions, others questioned his motivations, fearing corporate overreach and lack of transparency. City officials, under intense pressure from constituents, demanded detailed explanations and assurances that Tesla and SpaceX were not profiting from the crisis at the expense of public good. Elon found himself at the center of a political maelstrom, where every move was scrutinized and every word dissected. The tension between progress and public trust created a volatile environment. Elon's determination to push forward was met with resistance, fueling a conflict that tested his patience and resolve. The narrative captured this conflict vividly, portraying the boardrooms, press conferences, and behind-the-scenes negotiations where tempers flared and alliances shifted. Elon's usually commanding presence faced challenges as political figures leveraged the crisis for their own agendas. Meanwhile, grassroots activists rallied for greater community control and ethical oversight, accusing tech giants of sidelining human needs. This clash of visions created a dynamic backdrop for Elon's journey, adding layers of complexity and emotional depth. The chapter highlighted moments where Elon's confidence wavered, revealing his internal struggles. He questioned how to maintain his vision without alienating the very people he aimed to serve. The conflict pushed him to re-examine his leadership style, seeking ways to build bridges rather than walls. The rising conflict was interspersed with moments of hope. Elon's team collaborated with local community leaders on pilot projects to bring solar power and battery storage to low-income neighborhoods. These efforts were small but symbolic, signaling a willingness to listen and adapt. These glimpses of hope provided relief amidst the political storms and inspired Elon to keep fighting for a balanced future. The story balanced tension with optimism, showing that even in discord, cooperation was possible. As the chapter progressed, misunderstandings and betrayals deepened the conflict. A leaked memo suggested that some within Elon's own companies were prioritizing profit over public welfare, sparking media frenzy and internal investigations. Trust was strained on all sides. Elon faced the dual challenge of managing public relations and addressing internal dissent. The emotional stakes escalated as the stakes of failure grew higher. The vivid descriptions of boardroom confrontations, heated phone calls, and sleepless nights portrayed a man caught between competing demands. The hope climax structure was evident. A major political setback, a breakthrough in community collaboration, and then a fresh scandal threatening to derail progress. Through it all, Elon's character evolved. He grew more introspective and strategic, learning the value of humility and communication. The rising conflict was not just external but deeply personal. Elon's relationships were tested, his team questioned his decisions, friends urged caution, and his family worried about the toll the battle was taking on him. These emotional undercurrents added richness to the narrative, showing the human cost behind headlines. The chapter ended on a cliffhanger, an upcoming city council vote that would determine the future of Elon's projects in Los Angeles. The tension was palpable, the stakes could not have been higher. Elon prepared for what might be his greatest political challenge yet, knowing that the outcome would shape not only the city but his legacy. This chapter deepened the story's engagement by weaving together conflict, hope, and complex character development, setting the stage for the intense battles to come. The looming city council vote was more than a political event, it was a battleground where the future of Los Angeles's recovery, and Elon Musk's vision, would be decided. As the date approached, Elon found himself embroiled in a high-stakes campaign filled with fierce debate, media frenzy, and public pressure. The atmosphere was electric with tension, uncertainty, and fierce determination on all sides. Elon's team prepared meticulously, gathering data, testimonials, and expert opinions to present a compelling case for their projects. But the opposition was equally relentless. Critics accused Elon of overreach, warning that unchecked technology could lead to more harm than good. Community leaders voiced concerns about displacement, inequality, and corporate control. The narrative captured the drama of public hearings and private meetings, showing how deeply polarized the city had become. Elon's speeches were powerful and impassioned, blending technical detail with heartfelt appeals. He spoke about resilience, innovation, and the opportunity to create a city that could serve as a model for the world. Yet beneath his confident exterior, Elon wrestled with doubt. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. The vivid scenes of the council chambers, the murmurs of the crowd, the pointed questions from officials, the flickering tension, created a cinematic sense of suspense. During this time, Elon also experienced personal struggles. The relentless spotlight strained his relationships and tested his endurance. Jessica, his trusted lead engineer and confidant, encouraged him to find moments of balance and to remember the people behind the politics. Their conversations added emotional depth to the story, revealing Elon's human side beneath the public persona. The narrative alternated between the external battle for approval and Elon's internal fight to maintain hope and focus. The tension mounted as the vote drew near. Unexpected twists emerged. A key council member switched sides, swayed by a promise of expanded community benefits tied to Elon's projects. Meanwhile, leaked documents suggested sabotage attempts from competitors and political adversaries, further complicating the fight. These betrayals fueled the emotional roller coaster of the chapter, embodying the climax-hope-climax pattern. Elon's team rallied, redoubling their efforts to secure support. On the day of the vote, the council chamber was packed. Media cameras flashed, city officials took their seats, and citizens waited anxiously. Elon delivered his closing statement, a blend of vision and urgency that resonated deeply. He implored the council to choose progress over fear, unity over division. The chamber was silent, the weight of the moment palpable. Then the vote began. The results came in slowly, one by one, each council member cast their decision. Elon's heart raced with each tally. When the final count was announced, the outcome was a narrow but decisive victory for Elon's proposals. The room erupted in a mix of cheers, sighs, and stunned silence. The resolution was hard-won but monumental. Elon's vision had been validated, but the cost was clear: bridges burned, trust tested, and battles yet to come. The chapter closed on this victory tinged with complexity, highlighting that success in such a fraught environment was never simple or absolute. Through this intense political conflict, Elon's character matured further. He learned that leadership meant more than innovation; it required empathy, negotiation, and resilience in the face of opposition. The story's vivid portrayal of the city's political landscape, the emotional stakes, and Elon's personal struggles created a gripping and relatable narrative. The chapter left readers eager to see how Elon would navigate the aftermath of this victory, the challenges of implementation, and the evolving relationship between technology and society in Los Angeles. This chapter deepened the overall story by combining suspense, emotional nuance, and complex character growth, maintaining engagement while setting the stage for future developments. With the city council's narrow approval secured, Elon Musk faced a new reality, turning ambitious plans into concrete results amidst a web of competing interests, technical challenges, and rising public expectations. The aftermath of the vote was both exhilarating and sobering. Elon's team moved quickly to implement projects, but the city's infrastructure was fragile, stretched thin by years of underinvestment and mismanagement. The narrative plunged into the gritty details of construction sites, engineering hurdles, and logistical nightmares. Elon visited the areas targeted for upgrades, walking through neighborhoods with families still recovering from the blackout. His presence was a beacon of hope, but also a reminder of the immense responsibility weighing on his shoulders. The emotional texture of this chapter centered on the tension between hope and frustration. There were moments of triumph: successful installation of solar arrays, restored power in vulnerable communities, and moments of setback, equipment failures, supply chain delays, and lingering skepticism among residents. Elon's leadership style evolved as he balanced hands-on involvement with delegating responsibilities to trusted teams. His interactions with Jessica and other key figures deepened, showing how collaboration and trust were essential in navigating complexity. The chapter depicted vivid scenes of teamwork, late-night problem-solving, and community engagement, painting a realistic portrait of innovation in action. The story also explored the growing media spotlight. Coverage was mixed, with some praising the progress and others highlighting continuing challenges or questioning Elon's motives. This external pressure added emotional strain, but also galvanized Elon's resolve. He used public forums to communicate openly, emphasizing transparency and shared goals. The narrative portrayed Elon's speeches, social media posts, and candid interviews, revealing his determination to maintain trust. As implementation progressed, new conflicts emerged. Powerful utility companies, feeling threatened by Tesla's growing role, lobbied aggressively against regulatory changes. Political opponents seized on any misstep to criticize Elon's projects. These challenges introduced fresh tensions, underscoring that technological progress could never be separated from economic and political realities. The chapter followed the climax-hope-climax pattern, a breakthrough in community solar deployment, followed by opposition tactics disrupting progress, then a renewed effort by Elon and his allies to push forward. This rhythm kept the narrative dynamic and engaging. Elon's personal growth was evident as he learned to navigate not only technical but also political and social landscapes. He sought advice from mentors, engaged with community leaders, and adjusted strategies based on feedback. These moments humanized him, showing a leader open to learning and adaptation. The chapter concluded with a dramatic scene, a major setback when a critical battery storage facility experienced an unexpected failure just as a heatwave struck the city. The blackout threatened to return, and Elon's team scrambled to contain the crisis. This event underscored the stakes and left readers on edge, eager to see how Elon would respond to this new challenge. Through detailed descriptions of the facility, the frantic efforts of engineers, and Elon's own presence on site, the chapter conveyed urgency, tension, and emotional complexity. This installment deepened the story by blending technical realism, political intrigue, and personal drama, maintaining a compelling pace and rich character development. The unexpected failure of the battery storage facility struck at the heart of Elon Musk's vision for a resilient, sustainable Los Angeles, threatening to unravel months of progress in an instant. As the heatwave intensified, so did the stakes. Power outages loomed once again, and the city's fragile confidence wavered. Elon and his team were thrust into a high-pressure race against time to diagnose the problem, repair the damage, and prevent a repeat of the blackout nightmare. The emotional intensity was palpable, captured in vivid descriptions of the tense control rooms, frantic phone calls, and exhausted engineers working through the night. Elon himself was on site, pacing the facility's control center, his usual composure replaced by visible frustration and determination. The chapter delved into the technical complexities behind the failure, a faulty batch of battery cells combined with software glitches that had gone unnoticed in testing. This revelation sparked a mix of anger and resolve within the team. Elon's leadership was tested as he balanced accountability with motivation, pushing for rapid solutions without sacrificing safety. The narrative detailed the climax-hope-climax pattern, the crisis itself, the discovery of a potential fix, and then the emergence of new complications requiring further innovation. The human element was foreground, engineers shared stories of long days and nights, personal sacrifices, and the emotional toll of the high-stakes work. Elon's interactions with his team revealed a leader who was both demanding and empathetic, inspiring loyalty and perseverance. Meanwhile, the city's residents watched anxiously as updates trickled in. Public trust, already fragile, faced new challenges. Elon used media appearances and social media to maintain transparency, acknowledging mistakes while highlighting the commitment to overcome them. His candid communication helped temper criticism and fostered a sense of shared struggle. The chapter also explored Elon's private moments of vulnerability. Away from the cameras, he grappled with self-doubt and exhaustion, confiding in Jessica about the weight of expectations and the fear of failure. Their conversations added emotional depth and illuminated Elon's evolving understanding of leadership and resilience. As the repair efforts progressed, the story detailed the innovative solutions devised, new battery configurations, enhanced software protocols, and rigorous testing procedures. These developments underscored the theme of learning through adversity. The narrative's vivid descriptions of the repair work, from the hum of machines to the tense focus of technicians, created a cinematic feel. The chapter culminated in a tense sequence as the team prepared to restart the facility, with Elon leading the countdown. When power was restored without incident, relief washed over everyone, though caution remained. The victory was hard-won and fragile, a testament to perseverance and teamwork. The resolution emphasized that progress was neither linear nor easy, but the rewards of innovation justified the struggle. This chapter deepened Elon's character arc, showing a leader who embraced challenges as opportunities for growth. The blend of technical detail, emotional resonance, and narrative tension kept the story engaging while advancing key themes of hope, resilience, and the human spirit behind technology. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Following the intense battery facility crisis and its eventual resolution, Elon Musk's focus shifted toward a broader vision of resilience, not just technological, but social and communal. The blackout and subsequent failures had laid bare systemic inequalities that technology alone could not fix. Elon began engaging more deeply with grassroots organizations, local leaders, and residents who had been most affected by the chaos. These interactions became pivotal moments of transformation for him, adding layers of empathy and insight to his leadership. The narrative explored these encounters in vivid detail, from community meetings in neighborhood halls to informal conversations on street corners. Elon listened to stories of hardship, hope, and resilience, understanding that the success of his projects depended on more than infrastructure, it required trust and inclusion. The emotional tone of the chapter was warm and reflective, contrasting with previous tensions. Elon's interactions with diverse voices broadened his perspective and challenged some of his assumptions. This human-centered approach shaped the next phase of his work, focusing on collaboration and shared goals. Alongside these community efforts, Elon also faced new internal challenges within his companies. Rapid expansion strained resources, and tensions flared between teams focused on innovation and those managing day-to-day operations. These conflicts tested Elon's ability to mediate and unify his workforce. His evolving leadership style was on display as he balanced ambition with pragmatism, encouraging open dialogue and fostering a culture of mutual respect. The narrative captured these dynamics through detailed depictions of meetings, debates, and moments of breakthrough. The climax-hope climax structure was present in the chapter's arc, a major internal conflict threatening to derail progress, a breakthrough in communication and collaboration, followed by renewed momentum and optimism. Elon's personal growth was evident as he embraced humility and sought input from trusted advisors, including Jessica and other key team members. These relationships deepened the emotional resonance of the story, portraying Elon as a complex figure shaped by challenge and connection. The chapter also examined broader social themes, inequality, environmental justice, and the role of technology in society. Elon wrestled with these issues, recognizing that innovation must be coupled with responsibility and ethical awareness. The narrative wove these ideas seamlessly into the story, enriching its philosophical dimension without detracting from the emotional and dramatic core. Throughout the chapter, vivid descriptions of Los Angeles, its neighborhoods, people, and struggles, created a rich, textured backdrop. Scenes ranged from bustling urban centers to quiet, sunlit parks where Elon held informal gatherings. These settings underscored the diversity and complexity of the city he sought to serve. The chapter ended on a hopeful note, with Elon launching a new initiative that combined solar power, energy storage, and community ownership models. This effort symbolized a turning point, technology and humanity moving forward together. Elon's closing reflections emphasized the importance of listening, learning, and leading with compassion. The story's resolution was inspiring and profound. True progress arises from partnership and shared vision. This chapter marked a significant evolution in the narrative, shifting from crisis and conflict to connection and collaboration. It deepened the reader's engagement by blending emotional growth, social insight, and technological innovation, maintaining a compelling and hopeful tone. Elon Musk's journey through the aftermath of LA's blackout continued to reveal new facets of his character and the transformative power of resilience. As Elon Musk's community-driven initiatives gained traction, he found himself navigating a new kind of challenge, bridging the gap between innovation and bureaucracy. Los Angeles's municipal systems, historically slow and resistant to change, presented a labyrinth of regulations, permits, and political gatekeeping that threatened to stall progress. Elon realized that technological solutions alone would not suffice. He needed allies within the government and a deeper understanding of public administration to move forward. The chapter opened with Elon attending a city planning meeting, a setting charged with tension and skepticism. City officials grilled him on project details, environmental impacts, and equity concerns. Elon's typically confident demeanor gave way to patience and diplomacy as he carefully addressed questions, demonstrating a willingness to listen and adapt. The narrative captured the uneasy dance between private innovation and public accountability, painting vivid scenes of formal hearings, informal hallway conversations, and strategic negotiations. Elon's efforts to build coalitions led him to unexpected partnerships, with environmental activists, labor unions, and neighborhood associations. These alliances were fragile, requiring constant communication and compromise, but they also broadened support for his vision. The story highlighted moments of breakthrough where diverse stakeholders found common ground, such as agreements on job training programs linked to the solar projects or community oversight committees ensuring transparency. Emotionally, the chapter conveyed Elon's evolving understanding of leadership beyond the tech sphere. He grappled with the frustration of bureaucracy but also discovered the power of collaboration. His interactions revealed a growing humility and strategic patience, traits that endeared him to allies and tempered critics. The climax-hope-climax structure played out in the political arena, a major setback when a key permit was delayed, a hopeful breakthrough through a grassroots campaign that pressured officials, and a final challenge as new opposition arose from unexpected quarters. Throughout, Elon remained focused on the larger goal, building a sustainable, equitable future for Los Angeles. The chapter also wove in detailed descriptions of the city's neighborhoods undergoing transformation. From the sun-drenched rooftops covered in solar panels to the bustling job centers training local residents, the narrative created a vibrant sense of place. Elon's vision became tangible through these sensory details, grounding the technological narrative in everyday life. On a personal level, the chapter explored Elon's relationships under strain and renewal. Jessica continued to be a steadfast ally, providing counsel and emotional support. Elon also reconnected with his family, reflecting on the sacrifices made and the meaning of legacy. These moments added depth and humanity to the story, reminding readers of the costs and rewards of visionary leadership. As the chapter drew to a close, Elon faced a new political test, a citywide referendum that could either solidify support for his initiatives or deliver a crushing defeat. The suspense was palpable, with community leaders, media, and politicians all mobilizing their bases. Elon prepared for a final push, drawing on everything he had learned about communication, coalition building, and resilience. His closing reflections emphasized the importance of perseverance and shared purpose. This chapter advanced the story by highlighting the interplay between innovation, politics, and community, deepening character development and maintaining narrative tension. It underscored the complexities of real-world change and the necessity of bridging diverse perspectives to achieve lasting impact. Readers were left eager to see how Elon would navigate the referendum and the evolving social landscape of Los Angeles. The citywide referendum was set to be a decisive moment not only for Elon Musk's projects but for the future direction of Los Angeles itself. As polling day approached, the city buzzed with debates, advertisements, and public forums that reflected the deep divisions and hopes swirling around the issue. Elon's campaign to secure approval was intense, blending grassroots outreach with high-profile events and a flood of social media messaging designed to connect with everyday Angelenos. Yet the opposition was formidable, mobilizing fears about gentrification, corporate influence, and the pace of change. The chapter unfolded through a day-by-day progression, painting a vivid picture of a city caught in the throes of a democratic battle. Elon's team worked tirelessly, organizing volunteers, coordinating media appearances, and engaging directly with skeptical communities. The emotional intensity was high. Every conversation, every public appearance felt like a test of credibility and connection. Elon's personal investment was clear. This referendum represented a culmination of years of struggle and hope, a chance to finally realize his vision of a resilient, equitable city powered by clean energy. The narrative explored Elon's internal conflicts as well, balancing optimism with realism, managing fatigue, and confronting criticism both public and private. His relationship with Jessica was a source of strength and grounding, their late-night discussions revealing a man who was driven but deeply human. The climax-hope-climax pattern emerged in the campaign's timeline: early setbacks when key precincts showed strong opposition, a surge of support following a viral video highlighting the benefits of community solar, and then a last-minute controversy sparked by an opposition ad accusing Elon of prioritizing profit over people. The tension reached a fever pitch as election night unfolded. Polling centers across the city filled with anxious voters, campaign headquarters buzzed with activity, and media outlets provided live coverage. Elon paced in the background, watching results trickle in precinct by precinct. The narrative captured the suspense and emotional roller coaster with cinematic detail: the cheers of supporters, the groans of opponents, the quiet moments of doubt and hope. When the final results were announced, Elon's vision won by a narrow margin. The victory was hard-fought and bittersweet. Celebrations were tempered by the recognition of the city's deep divisions and the challenges ahead. The chapter ended on a reflective note, with Elon speaking at a modest victory event. His words emphasized unity, the importance of listening to diverse voices, and the shared responsibility of building a better future. This chapter deepened the emotional stakes of the story, showing Elon's growth as a leader who understood the complexities of democracy and the power of community. The detailed portrayal of the referendum campaign brought the political dimension of the story to life, highlighting the interplay of hope, fear, and perseverance. It reinforced key themes of resilience and collaboration while maintaining a gripping narrative pace. Through the ups and downs of the campaign, Elon emerged more mature and grounded, ready to face the implementation challenges that lay ahead. The story's vivid descriptions, emotional honesty, and nuanced character development kept readers engaged and invested in the unfolding saga of transformation in Los Angeles. With the referendum narrowly won, Elon Musk's vision for a transformed Los Angeles entered a critical new phase. Implementation at scale. The victory was symbolic but also the start of an immense logistical and social undertaking. Elon and his team faced the daunting task of translating promises into tangible outcomes, confronting new layers of complexity and resistance along the way. The chapter opened with a sweeping view of the city, where construction cranes dotted the skyline and solar panels gleamed on rooftops, symbolizing both progress and disruption. Elon's energy was palpable as he toured project sites, meeting with engineers, contractors, and community leaders. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered. Supply chain issues slowed deliveries of essential components, labor disputes threatened timelines, and unexpected technical glitches challenged the systems designed to integrate solar power and battery storage seamlessly into the city grid. The narrative captured these struggles in granular detail, from late-night troubleshooting sessions to tense negotiations over work conditions and resource allocation. Elon's leadership style evolved further. He learned to balance urgency with patience, pushing for innovation while fostering collaboration. His relationship with Jessica deepened as she became both a strategic partner and emotional anchor amid the mounting pressures. The story's emotional core centered on the human impact of the massive changes. Residents of affected neighborhoods experienced a mix of hope and anxiety. New jobs and clean energy promised uplift, but fears of displacement and cultural loss lingered. Elon engaged directly with these communities, hosting forums and listening sessions that revealed the layered realities behind the headlines. These moments added texture and empathy, showing the stakes beyond the technical. The chapter followed the climax-hope-climax rhythm. An initial wave of setbacks sparked frustration and doubt, a breakthrough moment in community acceptance revitalized momentum, followed by a fresh challenge as a major storm tested the resilience of the new infrastructure. The storm sequence was vivid and dramatic, with power surges, emergency responses, and real-time problem-solving highlighting the fragility and promise of the system. Elon's presence during the crisis underscored his commitment, as he coordinated with emergency teams and engineers, embodying a leader who was hands-on and deeply invested. Throughout the chapter, detailed descriptions of the city's shifting landscape, from revitalized neighborhoods to construction zones, created a cinematic atmosphere. The narrative emphasized contrasts between destruction and renewal, challenge and opportunity. Elon's personal reflections provided philosophical depth, as he contemplated the balance between progress and preservation, innovation and equity. The chapter concluded with a tentative but optimistic note: the infrastructure held through the storm, communities began to see tangible benefits, and Elon reaffirmed his commitment to building not just a smart grid but a smarter, more inclusive city. This installment enriched the story by combining technical realism, political savvy, and emotional nuance. It portrayed Elon as a leader growing in complexity, embracing the messy, human dimensions of large-scale change. Readers were left eager to witness the unfolding transformation and the new challenges it would bring. The chapter reinforced the overarching themes of resilience, collaboration, and hope, maintaining narrative momentum and emotional engagement. After the storm tested the fledgling energy infrastructure, Elon Musk knew the true work was only beginning. While the physical systems had endured, the social fabric of Los Angeles was still fragile. He recognized that technology alone could not heal the divides exposed by the blackout and the turbulent months that followed. In this chapter, Elon shifted his focus toward building lasting community resilience, projects that intertwined social support with technological innovation. The narrative opened with Elon visiting a community center in South LA, where local leaders had organized workshops on disaster preparedness and energy literacy. These gatherings empowered residents with knowledge and resources, fostering a sense of agency often missing in top-down initiatives. Elon listened attentively, absorbing stories of past neglect and current hopes. This immersion in community life deepened his understanding and shaped his approach. The chapter explored the evolving relationship between Elon and Jessica, who played a key role in bridging tech solutions with social impact programs. Their partnership grew stronger, marked by moments of vulnerability and mutual respect. Elon's personal reflections revealed a man grappling with the limits of innovation and the importance of empathy. The story also highlighted tensions within Elon's companies, as some engineers pushed for faster deployment of cutting-edge technology while others advocated for more community-centered, slower approaches. These internal debates underscored the complexity of balancing progress with responsibility. The climax-hope climax pattern unfolded through a sequence where a major tech rollout encountered backlash from local activists concerned about gentrification, followed by a collaborative redesign that integrated community input, and then a new challenge when funding uncertainties threatened sustainability. Vivid descriptions of neighborhood meetings, technical workshops, and personal conversations brought the narrative to life, emphasizing the human side of the transformation. Elon's leadership evolved into a more inclusive and listening style, valuing diverse voices and shared decision-making. The chapter also wove in broader reflections on systemic inequality, climate justice, and the role of innovation in social change. Elon's evolving philosophy acknowledged that technology must be coupled with justice and equity to create meaningful progress. Scenes of Los Angeles, sunlit streets, murals celebrating resilience, bustling markets, served as a vibrant backdrop, grounding the story in real places and people. The chapter ended on a cautiously optimistic note: while challenges remained, new alliances and adaptive strategies promised a more holistic and sustainable path forward. Elon's closing thoughts emphasized hope born from partnership and perseverance. This installment enriched the story's emotional and thematic depth, portraying a leader who had grown beyond the initial impulse to get it out fast, embracing instead the messy, human work of lasting change. The blend of technical detail, political complexity, and personal transformation kept readers engaged and inspired, reinforcing the central message that innovation must serve people to truly succeed. As Elon Musk's initiatives in Los Angeles continued to evolve, the stakes grew higher than ever before. The integration of cutting-edge technology with social programs was ambitious, but success was still far from guaranteed. In this chapter, Elon faced an unexpected crisis when a major software update intended to optimize the city's energy grid resulted in a widespread system malfunction. The glitch caused sporadic blackouts and confusion, stirring public frustration and threatening to unravel months of hard-won trust. The chapter opened with vivid descriptions of darkened streets and anxious residents calling for answers. Elon was thrust into the eye of the storm, managing damage control while pushing his engineers to identify and fix the root cause. The emotional intensity was palpable as the narrative detailed tense late-night strategy sessions, heated debates over accountability, and Elon's own internal struggle to maintain composure amid mounting pressure. The climax-hope-climax pattern unfolded naturally, the initial shock and backlash, a breakthrough discovery of the software flaw, followed by a new challenge when the fix introduced unforeseen complications. The story captured the high stakes and rapid pace of innovation, emphasizing the fragile balance between progress and risk. Elon's leadership style was on full display, demanding, relentless, yet increasingly collaborative as he relied on trusted team members and external experts. The chapter also highlighted the human cost of the crisis, frontline technicians working around the clock, families coping with outages, and community organizers advocating for transparency and fairness. Elon's interactions with these groups deepened his understanding of the real-world impact of his vision. Meanwhile, media coverage was intense and often critical, portraying Elon as both visionary and reckless. His public responses, including a candid live-streamed Q&A, aimed to rebuild confidence through honesty and accountability. The narrative showed how Elon's communication evolved to emphasize empathy and openness rather than defensiveness. The chapter's settings ranged from high-tech control rooms to neighborhood kitchens, creating a rich tapestry of perspectives and experiences. Scenes of the city in turmoil contrasted with moments of human connection, resilience, and hope. Elon's private reflections added philosophical depth, as he wrestled with the ethical implications of rapid innovation and the need for humility. The chapter concluded with the system stabilizing, albeit imperfectly, and Elon recommitting to iterative improvement and community partnership. The experience was a sobering reminder of the complexity of transforming a city at scale. This installment deepened the narrative by portraying the unpredictable nature of progress and the essential role of leadership grounded in accountability and empathy. It reinforced central themes of resilience, collaboration, and the human dimension of technology, maintaining tension and emotional engagement. Readers were left eager to see how Elon and Los Angeles would continue to navigate the turbulent path toward a sustainable, inclusive future. The aftermath of the software glitch was still fresh in the minds of the city's residents, and the pressure on Elon Musk was building with each passing day. While the system had stabilized, the damage to public trust lingered. To make matters worse, a new wave of political opposition emerged, with some city council members and activists arguing that the technological push was moving too fast, leaving behind entire communities in the process. The idea of techno-colonialism was gaining traction. Concerns about Elon Musk's vision of a smart city being used as a tool for gentrification and corporate control rather than public good. With Los Angeles teetering on the edge of a full-blown political crisis, Elon was forced to confront these criticisms head-on. The chapter opened with Elon attending a heated public forum, his presence as much a symbol of his bold ambitions as it was a target for the city's growing frustrations. The forum was packed, with residents airing grievances about the pace of change, the affordability of housing, and the risks of technology driving out working-class Angelenos. As Elon took the stage, the room fell into an uneasy silence. It was clear that he was facing an audience that had begun to see him as both a savior and a villain. The media was unforgiving, capturing every awkward pause and every pointed question with precision. Elon's response, however, was a moment of transformation. Instead of deflecting blame or doubling down on the merits of his projects, he acknowledged the flaws in the system and expressed a deep commitment to solving the problems they were facing together. It was a turning point, his vulnerability and openness resonated with many in the audience. The narrative followed the climax-hope-climax pattern, the initial tension and backlash, a breakthrough moment when Elon's sincere apology and pledge to integrate community feedback changed the tone of the discussion, and finally, the new challenge of making good on those promises in the face of entrenched opposition. As the meeting concluded, Elon and his team knew that they were entering a new phase in the fight for Los Angeles. The political atmosphere had shifted. The techno-colonialism accusation wasn't going away, but Elon now understood that it was not enough to have the most advanced technology. He needed to show that his vision was rooted in the well-being of every Angelino. The next few weeks were filled with a series of community-led workshops and roundtable discussions, where Elon listened, truly listened, to local leaders, activists, and residents. They spoke of the need for more affordable housing, for community control over renewable energy infrastructure, for job programs that would give workers real stakes in the projects transforming their neighborhoods. The challenge was immense. How could Elon build a city that was both cutting-edge and inclusive, technological and human-centered? At the same time, Elon's companies began facing internal pressures as well. His engineers were split between those who were pushing for aggressive, high-risk innovation and others who wanted to take a slower, more deliberate approach to ensure that the technology could integrate with the social fabric of Los Angeles. The internal debates were intense, with some employees questioning whether Musk's ambitious goals were worth the growing political and social strain. These dynamics were carefully portrayed in the chapter, providing a detailed look at the tension between the desire for progress and the need for caution. Elon's private moments reflected his growing self-awareness. He wasn't just fighting for technological advancement anymore, he was fighting for the people of Los Angeles, for his vision of a city that could be a model for the future. His relationship with Jessica deepened as they shared late-night conversations about the weight of responsibility, the fears of failure, and the hope that this venture could spark a larger movement towards social and environmental justice. The chapter closed on a poignant scene, where Elon walked through a neighborhood that had been hit hardest by the blackouts and the disruptions. He stopped to talk to an elderly couple whose power had been restored through the new system, a small victory in the midst of the ongoing chaos. They were skeptical, but as they spoke, a sense of trust began to build. Elon understood in that moment that this was about more than just technology, it was about healing wounds, restoring dignity, and creating real change at the community level. As the chapter ended, the political tides had started to shift. Elon was not out of the woods yet, but for the first time in months, there was a glimmer of hope that Los Angeles was moving toward a more inclusive, sustainable future, one where innovation didn't leave people behind but lifted them up. By now, Elon Musk had learned that progress wasn't just about rapid innovation or grand promises, it was about meeting people where they were, acknowledging their fears, and working to create a shared vision of the future. But in Los Angeles, that vision was still divided. The tide of political opposition hadn't fully receded, and the delicate work of fostering trust among communities remained challenging. But Elon, now more attuned to the complexities of the city, set about rebuilding those bridges with newfound humility. The chapter began with a pivotal moment, the announcement of a new partnership with several community organizations, a deal that promised to bring job training, affordable housing, and local leadership into the heart of the energy transformation project. The agreement was a response to the criticism that the push for smart infrastructure was leaving certain groups behind, and Elon hoped that it would serve as the turning point in the ongoing struggle for support. The signing ceremony was far from a simple formality. Held in a community center in Boyle Heights, a neighborhood that had long been marginalized, the event was a symbol of an earnest effort to right the wrongs of the past. Elon arrived to a room filled with activists, local leaders, and families who had lived through the turmoil of the recent disruptions. The atmosphere was a mixture of cautious optimism and deep skepticism. Elon, dressed in a simple jacket, took the stage in front of a crowd that was watching him with a careful eye. Gone were the speeches of sweeping ambition and technological dreams. Instead, Elon spoke plainly, acknowledging the mistakes that had been made, expressing regret for the hurt that had been caused, and, most importantly, promising to be accountable every step of the way. The moment was electric, there was no applause at first, only a quiet silence. But as the agreement was signed, and local leaders stood alongside Elon, the crowd's tension began to break. It was an uneasy alliance, one built on trust that had to be earned, not assumed. The narrative followed the climax hope climax rhythm. The initial clash between Elon and the community, punctuated by the formal agreement, gave way to a period of cautious hope. The real work had only just begun. With the new community partnership in place, the next challenge was how to make good on the promises of job creation, affordable housing, and energy equity. Elon knew that the tech side of the equation would be the easy part. The solar panels, the storage systems, and the smart grids were already in development. But the human side of the equation, rebuilding trust, fostering opportunity, and creating a more inclusive future, would be far more difficult. As work began on new housing projects and training centers, the team faced growing opposition from a new front. Real estate developers and political insiders who were worried about losing control over lucrative opportunities. The chapter delved into the political maneuvering that came with trying to balance innovation and social justice. Elon was forced to confront some hard truths about the corporate world he inhabited. He had always been a disruptor, but now he was navigating a far more complex landscape where compromise was necessary. The challenges were multifaceted. The construction of affordable housing was slow due to zoning laws, while some tech-driven solutions like self-driving vehicles raised new concerns about displacement. Throughout this, Elon found himself relying heavily on Jessica, whose experience with social programs and community advocacy helped shape a more grounded approach to the project. Together, they worked on finding a balance between the speed of technological deployment and the pace needed to heal divisions and ensure benefits reached the people who needed them most. The chapter's emotional depth centered on the human stories that came with the new phase of the project. We met workers who had been trained in solar panel installation, and we saw the early stages of neighborhoods that would soon benefit from cleaner energy and more affordable living. There were moments of doubt and frustration, but there were also moments of quiet victory. An elderly woman who had lived in a crumbling apartment complex now receiving affordable housing in a newly renovated building, a young man who had landed a job with one of Elon's solar installation teams after completing a local training program. These personal stories lent the project the kind of emotional weight it needed to move beyond the abstract realm of technology and into the lives of real people. At the same time, the internal conflict within Elon's teams grew as engineers began to clash over the pace and scale of their work. Some wanted to accelerate the technological rollout, while others, more cautious, warned that the social infrastructure wasn't keeping up. Elon spent sleepless nights in planning sessions, pushing the envelope on technological development while also realizing the importance of meeting human needs. The balance was precarious, and the pressure began to mount. One key development was the opening of the first full-fledged community solar farm. This project was designed to benefit low-income families who could not afford to install solar panels on their own homes. The idea was simple: large-scale solar arrays would generate electricity, which would then be distributed to neighborhoods that needed it most. Elon's excitement about the project was palpable, but as the opening drew closer, new complications arose. Local opposition, including from environmental groups that feared potential land degradation, led to delays. Once again, Elon was forced to navigate a delicate political landscape. He engaged with the critics, making modifications to the plans that addressed their concerns while still moving forward with the project. The final approval came after months of negotiation, and when the solar farm was finally up and running, it was celebrated as a significant win for both the technology and the communities it served. The chapter concluded with a scene that encapsulated the progress that had been made, but also the realization that the work was far from over. Elon stood on the roof of a newly built affordable housing complex, watching the sun set over the city. He knew that the path to change was never straightforward, and that there would always be setbacks. But in that moment, surrounded by the hope of the people he had worked so hard to support, he felt a glimmer of what was possible. He understood, finally, that his role wasn't just to build new technology but to create new systems of opportunity and equity. As the last rays of sunlight painted the city in hues of gold and orange, Elon Musk realized that this project, though imperfect, was more than just a mission, it was a movement. The city of Los Angeles, for all its chaos and challenges, was beginning to transform into a place where both technology and humanity could thrive together. As the transformation of Los Angeles entered its later stages, Elon Musk found himself navigating the increasingly complex interplay of technology, politics, and community dynamics. The city was no longer just a testing ground for futuristic energy and infrastructure projects, it had become a battleground of competing interests, each claiming to represent the real heart of the city's future. This chapter opened with Elon attending a high-profile summit where city officials, activists, tech executives, and residents gathered to debate the next phase of the transformation. The mood was tense but hopeful, a microcosm of the city's larger struggle to find common ground. Elon, known for his blunt style, surprised many by adopting a more conciliatory tone. He listened carefully to critiques, admitted to past missteps, and outlined a vision that emphasized partnership over domination. The narrative captured this moment as a turning point in the political landscape, where opposition shifted toward cautious collaboration. Yet, even as Elon worked to unify these fractured groups, a new and unexpected challenge arose, a cyber attack on the city's energy grid. The attack was sophisticated, targeting the very smart grid systems Elon's teams had built. Power outages spread across vulnerable neighborhoods, reigniting fears of instability and deepening mistrust among residents. The chapter detailed the frantic response from Elon's engineers and cybersecurity experts, who worked around the clock to isolate the breach and restore systems. Elon's leadership was critical, he coordinated with city officials, communicated transparently with the public, and managed to calm a city on edge. The emotional intensity was high, as families faced blackouts during hot summer days, and the media amplified fears of technological fragility. The climax-hope-climax pattern played out vividly. The initial shock of the cyber attack, a breakthrough in identifying the source and beginning recovery efforts, followed by the realization that such attacks might become a persistent threat requiring new strategies and vigilance. Elon's reflections during the crisis revealed a growing awareness of the vulnerabilities inherent in interconnected systems. He recognized that building a smart city was not only about innovation but also about resilience and security. The chapter explored the implications of this new reality, emphasizing that technological advancement had to be paired with rigorous protections and ethical considerations. Throughout the crisis, Elon's relationship with Jessica served as an emotional anchor. Their conversations, sometimes strained, sometimes tender, highlighted the personal costs of leading such a high-stakes endeavor. Jessica's pragmatic insights helped Elon navigate difficult decisions, and their bond deepened as they faced uncertainty together. The city itself became a vivid character in the story. Descriptions of darkened streets, emergency shelters, and community resilience efforts painted a picture of a metropolis both vulnerable and defiant. The chapter also featured poignant vignettes of everyday people coping with the outages, an elderly man reliant on medical equipment, a family juggling children's needs, and volunteers distributing water and supplies. These human moments underscored the stakes of the technological battle and the moral imperative behind Elon's work. As the crisis began to subside, Elon and his team developed a comprehensive plan to enhance grid security, incorporating lessons learned and new partnerships with cybersecurity firms and government agencies. The plan was ambitious, reflecting Elon's characteristic blend of bold vision and hard pragmatism. The chapter closed on a note of cautious optimism, with the city beginning to recover but the recognition that the journey toward a resilient, equitable smart city was far from over. This installment deepened the narrative by confronting the darker realities of technological progress, its vulnerabilities and the ethical challenges they posed. It reinforced central themes of resilience, accountability, and the necessity of collaboration between technology and humanity. Readers were left with a renewed sense of urgency and hope, eager to see how Elon and Los Angeles would confront the future's uncertainties together. The final chapter of the story takes place against the backdrop of a city on the verge of a monumental shift. Los Angeles had experienced enough highs and lows in its transformation to fill multiple lifetimes. From the chaos of the blackouts to the growth of community-driven tech solutions, the city was changing in ways that no one could have predicted. Yet, even as technology reshaped the landscape, it was clear that the true transformation was not just about smart grids or energy systems, it was about how the city's people had learned to coexist with the technology and with each other. Elon Musk stood at the edge of what would be the cornerstone of his Los Angeles vision, a sprawling new energy hub on the outskirts of the city, designed not only to serve as a renewable power source but also as a model of community and technological integration. The solar field stretched out before him, gleaming under the California sun, their panels humming with potential. This project would symbolize the heart of his success, a self-sustaining, equitable energy system that could scale nationwide and offer a blueprint for other cities. Yet, as Elon surveyed the fields, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real victory wasn't in the technology itself but in the relationships he had built and the lessons he had learned. This was a turning point, not just for Los Angeles, but for Elon himself. The city had come a long way since the days of explosive demands and technological turmoil. The pressure Elon had put on his team and himself had at times bordered on reckless, but the result was undeniable. Los Angeles was emerging as a city reborn, one that balanced innovation with social responsibility. But there was still a long road ahead. This chapter's opening explored Elon's private moments, showing his introspection about the journey. While his mind remained focused on the technical challenges, his heart now beat for the people whose lives had been changed by his projects. He thought of the elderly woman in Boyle Heights who had received her first solar-powered fan during a brutal summer heatwave, or the young woman who had started a new job at a local tech firm after receiving job training through one of his programs. These were the victories that had come from embracing the messy, human side of innovation. The narrative shifted from Elon's personal reflections to the vibrant scene at the unveiling ceremony for the new energy hub. Thousands of Angelenos had gathered, many of them from neighborhoods directly impacted by the city's new technological initiatives. They were there to celebrate what had been accomplished and to look forward to the future. For some, the hub represented a new beginning, a sustainable future where their communities could thrive. For others, it was a symbol of hope in a city that had often felt like it was on the edge of collapse. Elon stood at the podium, flanked by local leaders, engineers, and community advocates. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. But as the speeches were made and the ribbon was cut, something unexpected happened. The crowd began to cheer, not just for the technology, but for the very idea that change was possible. People clapped, yelled out in joy, and embraced one another. It was a moment of solidarity, a moment that transcended the complexities of tech and politics. It was the moment Elon had been striving for, and he couldn't help but feel the weight of everything they had overcome. As the day went on, Elon made his way through the crowd, stopping to speak with residents, community leaders, and volunteers who had helped make the project possible. These conversations were different now. People didn't just see him as a tech billionaire anymore, they saw him as a partner in the effort to rebuild their city. There were still skeptics, still those who questioned the role of big tech in their lives. But the trust Elon had worked so hard to build was now palpable in the air. The lessons of humility, accountability, and empathy had been learned. The chapter also explored the internal changes within Elon's team. His leadership had evolved. Initially known for his unwavering demand for speed and results, Elon had softened, learning to balance his visionary goals with the needs of his team. His engineers now worked with a shared sense of purpose, understanding that the work they did had a direct impact on people's lives. They were no longer just solving problems, they were solving problems with people in mind. This cultural shift was reflected in the way the team collaborated with local community organizations, ensuring that projects weren't just top-down initiatives but involved the communities every step of the way. One pivotal moment came when Elon sat down with a group of activists who had once been vocal critics of his projects. They spoke candidly about the challenges of integrating technology into their neighborhoods without displacing the people who had lived there for generations. Elon listened intently, asking questions and taking notes, determined to find ways to improve. At the end of the meeting, one of the activists turned to him and said, "You've come a long way, Elon. You might not have all the answers, but you're asking the right questions now." That was all Elon needed to hear. It was confirmation that, despite the mistakes and setbacks, the city was moving in the right direction. In the following weeks, a new initiative was launched, a series of community-led innovation hubs where Angelenos could pitch their ideas for tech-driven solutions to local problems. The initiative was designed not only to encourage entrepreneurship but also to create a more decentralized model of technological development. Elon believed that if people could build solutions for their own communities, the technology would be more impactful and sustainable in the long term. Meanwhile, Elon's relationship with Jessica reached a new level of understanding. Throughout the ups and downs, she had been his sounding board, his partner in every sense. Their late-night conversations had gone from tense strategy sessions to moments of reflection on how far they had come, and how much further there was to go. They had seen the city change, but they had also seen themselves change. The final conversation of the chapter between Elon and Jessica was a quiet one, held in the shadows of the newly built community center, overlooking the solar fields. "I never imagined it would be this hard," Elon confessed, his voice tinged with weariness. Jessica smiled softly. "It's never easy," she replied, "but you've done it. We've done it." For the first time in the book, Elon smiled genuinely, not because of a breakthrough or an achievement but because he had finally found peace with the journey. The chapter closed with a poignant scene, Elon watching the sunset over the city from the rooftop of the community center. Los Angeles stretched out before him, vibrant and full of life. He knew that the work wasn't done, that there would always be new challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of calm. He had learned that it wasn't just about getting it out, it was about getting it right, about making sure that every step forward was one taken in partnership with the people it was meant to serve. As the city buzzed below him, the final lines of the chapter echoed the message that had been at the heart of the story all along: technology may be the tool, but humanity is the heart. And in the end, it is the heart that will guide us through the chaos. A quiet morning in Los Angeles, the city still humming with the energy of transformation but settling into a new rhythm. The chaos that had once defined Elon Musk's ambitious project was now giving way to something more sustainable, more grounded. But for Elon, the story was far from over. This chapter explored the unexpected twists and long-term impacts that followed the initial breakthroughs, a deeper dive into the aftermath and the legacy being shaped in real time. Elon's mind was racing with new ideas and challenges, but now tempered with the hard-earned wisdom of experience. As he walked through the streets of South Central, he noticed the subtle changes. Solar panels on rooftops, electric buses gliding by, murals celebrating community resilience. The signs of progress were everywhere, but so were reminders of the work still left to do. The city was a living, breathing entity, constantly evolving, and Elon's role was shifting from disruptor to steward. The chapter's central theme was legacy. What does it mean to leave a mark on a city that is as complex and diverse as Los Angeles? Elon had realized that true change was measured not just by the technology deployed but by the lives touched and the systems strengthened. This realization came into sharp focus during a series of community meetings that Elon attended alongside local leaders and activists. These gatherings weren't about big announcements or flashy presentations, they were about listening, really listening, to the concerns and hopes of residents. Elon's reputation as a visionary often overshadowed his willingness to hear criticism, but here, in these small rooms, that reputation was changing. People shared stories of struggle and resilience, of neighborhoods still fighting gentrification and displacement, of parents worried about schools and healthcare. Elon took notes, asked questions, and promised to integrate these voices into the ongoing work. The narrative captured these moments with emotional depth, illustrating the power of dialogue in bridging divides. Amid this, Elon's technology teams were launching new pilot programs focused on renewable energy microgrids designed to empower individual neighborhoods with greater energy independence and resilience. These microgrids were not just technical marvels, they were community-owned assets, managed by local cooperatives trained with support from Elon's companies. This decentralized approach reflected a major shift from the original centralized grid vision, embodying the lessons learned from past conflicts. The chapter also explored tensions that remained beneath the surface. Not everyone was convinced that technology could solve social problems, and some activists remained wary of Elon's motives and influence. This skepticism was healthy, the story suggested, acting as a necessary check on unchecked ambition. Elon's ongoing efforts to build trust were not about winning everyone over but about respecting diverse perspectives and committing to transparency and accountability. A significant subplot involved the education sector. Elon partnered with local schools and community colleges to create programs focused on STEM education and green technology careers. These programs were designed to equip a new generation with the skills to participate actively in the city's transformation. The stories of students who had benefited were interwoven, highlighting the real-world impact beyond infrastructure and policy. One memorable scene featured a high school robotics team mentored by one of Elon's engineers, preparing for a national competition. Their enthusiasm and determination reflected the chapter's message of hope and possibility. The chapter also revealed Elon's personal growth. Interviews with close colleagues and Jessica showed a man who had moved beyond the impatience and hubris of earlier years. His leadership style had softened but remained focused and passionate. He was learning the importance of patience, empathy, and collaboration in achieving lasting change. The chapter's emotional core was a candid reflection on failure and resilience. Elon recounted moments when projects had faltered, when funding had been cut, partnerships had dissolved, or technical setbacks had derailed timelines. Rather than hide these struggles, he embraced them as essential steps on the path to success. This honesty lent the story a relatable and human dimension, reminding readers that even the most visionary leaders face adversity. The climax of the chapter came with the announcement of a new citywide initiative to make Los Angeles the first carbon-neutral metropolis in the United States by 2040. Elon stood alongside the mayor and community leaders as they unveiled an ambitious but achievable plan combining technology, policy, and community engagement. The plan called for expanding renewable energy, electrifying transportation, increasing green spaces, and investing in social programs to ensure equity. This moment symbolized the culmination of years of effort, negotiation, and learning. But the story didn't end there. Elon's closing reflections emphasized that the journey toward sustainability was ongoing, requiring continuous adaptation and vigilance. He acknowledged that no single person or project could solve all problems but that collective action offered the best hope. The chapter closed with a powerful message: real change comes from partnership, between technology and humanity, innovation and community, vision and reality. The city skyline at dusk was described in vivid detail, a metaphor for hope and possibility. Elon Musk's final words echoed the opening's curiosity and tension, inviting readers to imagine their own role in shaping the future. This concluding chapter extended the narrative beyond the immediate story, offering a thoughtful meditation on legacy, responsibility, and the ongoing quest to build a better world. It left readers with a sense of optimism balanced by realism, underscoring that every ending is also a new beginning. Get It Out had been a story about explosive demands and chaotic breakthroughs, but it was ultimately about transformation, personal, technological, and societal. And as Los Angeles moved forward, so too did the people who called it home. Elon Musk reflecting on the profound changes that Los Angeles had undergone, and the ripple effects those changes were beginning to have beyond the city limits. The story shifted focus from local transformation to the broader implications of technological innovation combined with community-driven action. Elon was no longer just a figurehead of disruption but a symbol of how visionary leadership could be harnessed to meet real-world challenges, environmental, social, and economic. The narrative began with a vivid description of an early morning flight from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., where Elon was scheduled to speak at a major climate summit. The scene captured the contrasting atmosphere of the bustling city below and the intense expectations resting on his shoulders. On the plane, Elon reviewed notes, mentally preparing to advocate for policies inspired by the lessons learned in Los Angeles. He knew the stakes were high, the nation was at a crossroads, and the example of a single city could influence the path forward for the entire country. The summit itself was a sprawling event filled with political leaders, scientists, activists, and business executives. Elon's speech was positioned as a highlight, and anticipation buzzed through the crowd. As he stepped up to the podium, cameras flashed and whispers rippled through the audience. His opening line posed the central question that had driven the entire Los Angeles project: what if we could rebuild our cities not just to survive the future, but to thrive in it? The speech unfolded with Elon outlining the practical steps Los Angeles had taken, deploying renewable energy, creating decentralized microgrids, partnering with communities, and fostering inclusive economic growth. He emphasized the importance of integrating technological innovation with social equity, insisting that sustainability without justice was no sustainability at all. The speech was both visionary and grounded, mixing bold projections with real-world data and personal stories. Elon's ability to connect the dots between technology and humanity resonated deeply, eliciting standing ovations from some quarters and skeptical murmurs from others. The narrative captured this polarity, highlighting the challenges of leading at the intersection of progress and politics. Following the speech, Elon engaged in candid conversations with lawmakers and activists, navigating a complex web of interests and ideologies. These dialogues revealed the difficulties of translating innovative ideas into policy, especially amid polarized political climates. Yet, Elon remained optimistic, pointing to the model of Los Angeles as proof that change was possible when diverse stakeholders worked together. Back in Los Angeles, the city continued to evolve, inspired by the momentum Elon's leadership had helped generate. New startups focusing on green technology and community resilience sprang up, many founded by young entrepreneurs who had grown up amid the chaos and transformation. The chapter included profiles of several of these innovators, illustrating how the story of one city had sparked a broader cultural shift. A significant subplot explored the continuing challenges of ensuring equity. Despite advances, some neighborhoods still struggled with access to resources and opportunities. Elon's companies partnered with local nonprofits to address these gaps through targeted programs, reinforcing the theme that technology alone could not solve systemic issues but could be a powerful tool in the right hands. The chapter also delved into Elon's personal journey as a leader and public figure. Media scrutiny intensified as his projects gained national attention, and the pressures of fame weighed heavily. The story offered a nuanced portrait, showing Elon grappling with criticism, balancing his public persona with private vulnerabilities, and striving to maintain authenticity amid increasing demands. A touching scene depicted Elon during a quiet moment with Jessica, reflecting on the sacrifices made and the unspoken hopes for the future. Their relationship had weathered storms but remained a source of strength. The narrative emphasized the human element behind the headlines. As the chapter progressed, it highlighted how Elon's vision began influencing policy discussions beyond energy and infrastructure. Conversations about education reform, healthcare access, and economic inequality increasingly incorporated technological solutions rooted in community engagement. Elon's voice was a catalyst, sparking new collaborations between government, industry, and civil society. Toward the end of the chapter, a pivotal moment arrived when Elon was invited to testify before Congress on climate innovation and urban resilience. The hearing was intense and widely covered by the media. Elon presented clear, data-driven arguments, advocating for federal support of decentralized energy systems, expanded STEM education, and inclusive economic policies. He also addressed critics head-on, acknowledging past mistakes and emphasizing the need for humility and ongoing dialogue. The testimony marked a turning point, opening new avenues for public-private partnerships and signaling a growing willingness among lawmakers to embrace bold solutions. The closing scenes of Chapter 22 returned to Los Angeles, where the sun set over the city skyline, now dotted with solar arrays and wind turbines. Elon stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, contemplating the journey from chaos to cautious optimism. His thoughts turned to the future, a future where technology and humanity moved forward together, each amplifying the other's strengths. The final lines echoed a core message: real transformation requires vision, courage, and above all, a commitment to people. Elon's parting words invited readers to consider their own role in shaping a better tomorrow, reinforcing that every individual action mattered in the collective effort to build sustainable, just communities. This chapter expanded the story's scope beyond Los Angeles, weaving together local triumphs and national challenges to offer a hopeful, realistic vision of what the future might hold. It reinforced the importance of leadership that listens, learns, and adapts, qualities Elon Musk demonstrated in spades as he navigated the complexities of innovation in the real world. A renewed sense of urgency as Elon Musk faced a new wave of challenges emerging from the very success of his ambitious projects in Los Angeles. The city was no longer just a testing ground for cutting-edge technology, it had become a beacon attracting attention, investment, and controversy from across the nation and even the world. With increased visibility came increased scrutiny, and Elon found himself navigating complex political, social, and ethical dilemmas that tested his leadership and vision in unexpected ways. The narrative opened with Elon arriving at a major tech conference in San Francisco, where the atmosphere was charged with excitement but tinged with underlying tensions. Industry leaders debated the pace of innovation and its societal implications, raising questions about privacy, equity, and environmental impact. Elon's keynote speech was eagerly anticipated, not only for its content but for what it would reveal about his evolving stance on these critical issues. As Elon took the stage, he acknowledged the remarkable progress made in Los Angeles, highlighting milestones like the decentralized microgrid projects, community partnerships, and advances in renewable energy adoption. But he didn't shy away from addressing the growing concerns around surveillance technology, data security, and the potential unintended consequences of rapid automation. His message was clear: innovation must be responsible, ethical, and inclusive. The chapter explored how Elon was grappling with the balance between speed and caution, between pushing boundaries and ensuring safeguards. His leadership style was evolving from a top-down, results-driven approach to one that embraced dialogue, transparency, and collaboration with diverse stakeholders. The story detailed internal debates within his companies, where engineers, ethicists, and community advisors worked together to refine product designs and deployment strategies to minimize harm and maximize benefits. A significant subplot in the chapter involved a controversial pilot program launched in a lower-income neighborhood of Los Angeles, aimed at integrating AI-powered energy management with social services outreach. While the program promised increased efficiency and targeted assistance, some residents expressed fears about privacy violations and loss of autonomy. Elon personally engaged with community leaders, attending town halls and forums to listen and respond to concerns. These interactions were tense but constructive, highlighting the necessity of building trust through openness and respect. The chapter also delved into the growing role of women and underrepresented groups in Elon's projects. Inspired by Jessica's influence and advocacy, new initiatives focused on diversity in tech leadership and workforce development. Stories of young women engineers, community organizers, and entrepreneurs featured prominently, emphasizing the transformative power of inclusion. One memorable scene showcased a mentorship event where Elon and Jessica joined aspiring female technologists in sharing experiences and encouraging the next generation. On a personal level, Elon faced mounting pressure from the media and public opinion. The intense spotlight brought criticism and occasional backlash, forcing him to confront the limitations of his influence. The narrative revealed moments of vulnerability and doubt, balanced by a steadfast commitment to the mission. Conversations with Jessica provided grounding and perspective, reminding Elon of the importance of resilience and humility. The chapter's emotional core revolved around a crisis triggered by a major cyber attack targeting the city's energy infrastructure, exploiting vulnerabilities in the newly implemented systems. The attack caused widespread outages and panic, threatening to undo years of progress and undermining public confidence. Elon sprang into action, coordinating with cybersecurity experts, law enforcement, and city officials to contain the damage and restore services. The crisis underscored the interconnectedness of technology and security, and the critical need for vigilance and preparedness. As the city slowly recovered, Elon made a public address acknowledging the failure, taking responsibility, and outlining a plan to bolster defenses and improve transparency. His candid approach helped rebuild trust and demonstrated a commitment to learning from setbacks. The chapter also reflected on the broader implications of the attack, sparking national conversations about infrastructure security and the evolving threats facing smart cities. Policymakers and industry leaders look to Los Angeles as a case study in both vulnerability and resilience. Toward the end of the chapter, Elon launched a groundbreaking initiative to create a comprehensive cybersecurity task force, combining government agencies, private companies, and community representatives. The goal was to develop best practices, share intelligence, and foster innovation in protecting critical infrastructure. This initiative symbolized a new phase in Elon's leadership, one focused on sustainability not just in energy but in security, governance, and social cohesion. The closing scenes painted a picture of a city learning to adapt to complexity, embracing uncertainty as a catalyst for growth. Elon stood on a rooftop overlooking Los Angeles at night, the city lights shimmering below, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. His reflections captured the essence of the chapter, that progress was never linear, that setbacks were inevitable but could be transformed into opportunities, and that the future depended on collective action grounded in shared values. The final lines invited readers to consider their role in shaping resilient communities, underscoring that technology was a tool, and it was up to society to wield it wisely. The story's exploration of leadership in the age of rapid innovation, emphasizing the ethical and practical challenges that come with power and responsibility. It portrayed Elon Musk not as an infallible genius but as a complex, evolving figure striving to learn and lead amidst uncertainty. This chapter expanded the narrative scope to include security, ethics, and inclusivity, offering a richer, more nuanced portrait of what it takes to get it out, in a world where every breakthrough carries risks and rewards. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?